G'day and welcome to the Ball Boys AFL Fantasy Podcast. Today we're going to review all the action that happened in round 9 with a few less bullets this round and hopefully some better scoring for everyone. Let's go!
Hodge has done it from nowhere. Hodge in the goal from inside the 30. Sheed from the boundary. Dusty!
G'day and welcome again to the Ball Boys AFL Fantasy Podcast. I'm your host, Mitch Casey, and you can find me on Twitter at Ball Boys Fantasy. And I'm joined, as always, by my rival this week and the man who was going down, Luke Rogerson, mate. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Of course, you're referring to the Content Creators Cup where we're both on the 5-game win streak.
Yeah, well.
You might even be on a longer one, to be honest. I'm just looking at the little...
Yeah, I think so. Well, what am I, 8-1 or something? I've lost one game so far, and
well, get ready to get fucked up, mate, because I'm coming for the crown.
Yeah, all right. So you reckon? So you can tell that all this information is going to be absolute garbage in this podcast because I'm going to be throwing some absolute rubbish your way just to throw you off the scent. But no, we had a few less bullets in the round just gone, mate. How did you go on the weekend? What was your score? Where are you ranking, and how did you go in last week's matchup?
Yeah, I think just above sort of par this week. So 2-2-2-4 was the round score.
2-2-4.
We both had a few twos in our score this week, and it just moved the overall rank up by about 200 spots to 1533. So it's still in the respectable range, I reckon, which is good, and it was enough to get a little win over MJ there in the Content Creators Cup.
Nice. I had the 2-2-2-9, so pipped you there by 5 points. Bit of a preview of what's to come this weekend, mate. Which unfortunately moved me back again, just another little slide. So I'm at 173. So I've peaked at 143.
Yeah, not peaked, mate. I reckon you still got.
It's a little frustrating because I feel like my trades have been good, my captains have been solid, and just still not getting it done. A few players that are hurting me. The players that I don't have, I think, is more the thing that's going on, and a couple of tags affecting my defenders for the most part. So overall, I am now 48 points behind the top 100, which is 17 points back from the week before, and I'm 347 points back from first, which is 48 points back from last week. So don't think that's going to happen, but I did defeat Louis in the Content Creators Cup to move Sol into first place over there. And speaking of the Content Creators Cup, special thanks to Infinite Wealth and Gessie over there for sponsoring the Content Creators Cup with their generous donation to the winner. And also they have a free gift for everyone who heads over to infinitewealth.com.au/AFL Fantasy. There's a gift valued at nearly $3,000 for every AFL Fantasy coach if you want to go over to that link. That is infinitewealth.com.au/AFL Fantasy to claim it and check it out for more details. So do go and help out the good friends over at Infinite Wealth by checking that one out there, guys. But let's talk about BOGs Flogs.
And the winner of the Norm Smith medal.
You're an embarrassment to what you do, mate. You're an embarrassment.
Carlton versus Melbourne, first game of the round. Best on ground. Who have we got, Luke?
Big Walshy, mate. You would have been happy to see what you saw.
I was very happy. Now, I didn't watch too much footy on the weekend because I was away for the majority of it, but I did watch this game, and, mate, Sam Walsh, he is just a gun, and this is what I was hoping to see. Obviously, he didn't have the marks or tackles the previous few weeks, a couple of low tons, but he put it all together again and replicated like one of his first scores that he started the year with. So
he's good to watch. You never doubt his hard work.
Absolutely, yeah. It all came together in the wet. He's, I think he likes a bit of wet weather footy. Flogged for this game, but it wasn't any individual players, but the Carlton, I'm calling it the Carlton Hamstring Management Department because
I'm sure that's a real department.
This specific injury just seems to plague their club. Like, they have been, hamstrings to Sard, now Adam Chera. Last year, Walsh did a hammy. Cripper's done hammies in the past. I'm sure I'm forgetting a fair few, but they just can't get over the hamstring tears. So I'm a bit nervous about my boy Walshy in there, who's, obviously had interrupted start to the season. Hopefully.
No, he'll be right, mate. Absolutely nothing will happen to him.
No. Not going to happen. Not going to work. Not going to work. But yeah, so sort your shit out, Carlton, and let's get across these hamstring injuries. Geelong versus Port Adelaide.
Now, you're not wrong about not watching much footy, because I didn't watch much footy. We were actually at the same event on the weekend, so it's two blokes doing a podcast about footy that watch no footy. So enjoy this one,
we
guys.
don't need to watch this weekend to know this guy's a Jet.
Well, correct, Mundo. Great segue. Zach Butters turned it on, and we've...
This is not new information.
That's correct. We've owned him for the whole year, and, it's been mediocre in patches, but
he's his best score of the season so far.
He started to turn on, I reckon, Zach Butters.
No Rosie. I was worried a bit about the tag, but apparently that didn't come. A little bit of attention went to Horn Francis from what I heard, so cool. I'll take that day of the week.
Cool.
For the flog, I'm giving it to Tom Stewart. From what I understand is he moved a bit onto the wing and was sulking around a little bit in 64. And more so for the fact that I did say to hold him a few weeks ago when he did have that concussion. And that has since been proven to be probably not the best move because his price has plummeted down. I thought he would hold sort of like 80s and 90s, and I thought that'd be enough to sort of warrant a hold. But this, low 60s score is, that's a slap to the face for those who did hold him.
Especially on a line where we've got some good scoring players at the moment. Now,
Yes.
Freo and Sydney are talking about a bloke that you didn't hold. The permanent marker, mate, has made you look silly.
I got him off. And you're welcome because of it. Because ever since I got him off, mate, he's been killing it.
Yeah, Sharpie.
Yeah.
It's been good. 118, we'll take that from a guy that came into our team.
This is his best score of the year so far, and you are all kissed for having him.
Just good
on your
coaching,
ground.
as you like to say, mate. Now, who was the flog from this game?
James Jordan, mate. He, we traded him out. We got him off, and he didn't respond the same way, and he's gone and started tagging all our players.
Yeah, he was not happy. I think Roy summarised it well on the Traders show yesterday that he sucked in our teams, and now he sucks when he's not in our teams as well. So
what's going on, man? Like, first Whitfield, now he's gone to Jordan Clark. I put up a tweet saying as if he went to Jordan Clark and not, Sarong and Luke Ryan and Hayden Young.
You got to stop Clarkie getting those 90s, mate.
Well, yeah, and of course all the Freo people came to his defence. So, of course you're going to tag him. He's the only one that scores inside 50. I'm like, I'm an AFL fantasy coach, mate. I only think about my AFL fantasy team. That's all my tweets are ever about. So just remember that. Let's go on to the next game here. Hawthorn versus St Kilda. Best on ground. I do have this rookie.
Well, yeah, lucky too, because this guy, there was a lot of good play in that game. We had Jack Steele, we had Big Wang, we had Big Boner, we had the big man in Rowan Marshall as well. But what would our forward lines look like without Darcy Wilson?
He's a premium. He's a dead set premium.
It makes me nervous for the fact that at some point we're going to have to trade him out and make a cash grab with him because the forward line is just dog shit. But Darcy Wilson, you're doing good things for us, so we appreciate it, mate.
Last three average of 93. That is a dead set premium. So he is definitely someone we're not rushing to trade him out at any point. The flog for me for this one. Probably not for most people, but I'm sick of this fucking erection sticking around. This is something that you should go to hospital now because this boner has stuck around far too long.
The little blue pill, you reckon?
We need to get this one checked out. Go to the hospital and ask for medical assistance because there's no way that this guy should still be hurting me in round 10. You got nearly a 130. What is going on, Luke?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, mate. We were at my sister's, your partner's graduation on the weekend and sneaking a peek at the scores during the graduation.
As you do.
It made it hard to celebrate my own sister seeing Riley Bonner go 130. So thanks for that, Riley. You ruined it. You ruined it for me.
Yeah, not often does a boner ruin things, but
especially a graduation ceremony.
It ruins my weekend most weekends. And I thought, just go back to the week where we did trade him in and we thought we were doing great. And he had that 0-point quarter. And we were all, we missed out on the boner.
The irony is he screwed us with that low game because let's say he pumps out another sort of 80, 90, then we're probably like, yeah, okay, we got to suck it up and do it. But, man, all power to you if you got him. But we are just salty little operators.
Yeah, anyway, let's move on. Essendon versus GWS. Who we got?
Nick Martin getting it done. No more to say.
No more to say. He's just an absolute weapon. I've got the flog here for Lockie Whitfield. Now, you could say the flog was the tag which he received again on the weekend. But I say Lockie Whitfield, be better, mates. Don't make yourself such an easy target because, of course, they're going to tag you every week if it fucking works.
2 tags, 2 losses, and every other team that comes up against GWS are going, well, why not?
Yeah, so it just leaves us with too many questions and his price is going down. So Lockie Whitfield, handle the pressure better, mates, for your own team and for us fantasy coaches as well.
Now, Richmond versus the Western Bulldogs, the team that I've got here as best on ground, the player I've got as best on ground, is not a player, it's a team. It's Richmond. Now, let me talk you through this one. A lot of shit teams give us headaches. North Melbourne, they're a shit team, but they give us headaches. Where's Sheasel playing? What's going on with McKercher? What's happening with Zach Fisher?
Headaches in Richmond.
No headaches. Richmond are not only fantasy irrelevant for their players largely, but then they just front up and it's like a points buffet. Yeah. It's like the old Sizzler buffet, but for points. And
because they haven't figured out the chip-to-chip in the back line yet.
No, they haven't worked it out. I mean, we gave up points when we were good.
Yeah, that's right.
Now we're shit. So thank you, Richmond, for just being predictable. And when our fantasy players play against Richmond, it's a blessing. Thank you,
look,
Richmond.
I've gone the flow with Richmond here as well. I mean, there wasn't too many flog fantasy relevant players because all the Bulldogs scored. So just Richmond for being a shit watch. Just from a footy point of view, as a fan, I'm only really watching Richmond now to see my players go massive against them as my captain. So,
correct.
Yeah, not really what a general AFL fan wants to watch their team for. Gold Coast versus North.
Yeah, let's take it up to Darwin. And my spicy take on Friday was that the Tookster likes it moist.
He top scored.
Well, he did top score. And if you've ever not watched the game and you jump into the AFL, the actual AFL app, and you click on the players, and then immediately you see your player's name pop up there, and there's that half second between seeing your player's name at the top and you're like, 150, let's rock and roll, and then your eyes scrubbing across 108. Top score 108.
Hey, top scored.
But then we'll talk about him later, but the picture gets less pretty when you go and look at the CBA stats.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's
anyway,
not the best.
He was the top scorer, and he did love it moist to an extent.
He did. Flog here, I'm giving it to Clarko because Harry Sheasel, what the fuck is that role? So he says he's going to give him more into the midfield, get him ahead of the ball, that sort of stuff. But doesn't mean you sit him in the forward line, which you're never going to get the ball at North Melbourne.
Get him ahead of the ball at North Melbourne. You'll get plenty of it.
That'll make a big difference. Yeah, great move. So, he's getting CBAs behind Will Phillips. He's getting CBAs behind Tom Powell. What are we doing here?
Either do it or don't do it.
Yeah, chuck him in the middle and make him a full-time mid, or keep him off half-back. I don't know what this in-between rubbish is. So, Clarko, mate, I don't know. I don't know what you're doing over there.
Listening
North,
to the Clarko presser this afternoon, I don't know if anyone else is getting this picture, but Clarko seems almost wishful and hopeful in his press conference. He's like, yeah, eventually it'll turn around. Eventually it'll
North
come.
Has been,
if I was a North fan,
I'd
be like, give me some conviction. Give me something to get behind. It just seems like, we just got to play the young kids and keep assisting. It's like
they've been shit for a while now.
Give me something. Give me something.
Yeah, they need more than just a bit of hope for a few years.
Oh, man.
Collingwood versus West Coast. This one's a nice, easy one.
Yep, Nick Dacos, enough said again.
Absolutely. I couldn't find really any fantasy relevant flogs, so I just gave it to Mason Cox because I don't like him.
Well, mate, it's your podcast. Do what you want.
He's a bit of a dick, so
do what you want.
He gets the flog. Adelaide versus Brisbane.
You were riding this one hard. I think Josh Dunkley needs to get his props. He's been going really well recently. Yeah. And to an extent, flying under the radar.
Yeah, he's an absolute weapon. Another selfish flog here. I've given it to Dane Benjamin Button Zorko because at age 35, he is having a career best season and his hamstrings have never looked healthier, mate. He is running so hard for these cheap plus sixes in the back line. I don't know how they're holding up.
They're hanging on by
because
a thread.
they in the years gone past, they'd have gone by now, and they are looking as strong as ever because he is thirsty down the back there and loves a cheapie. So he gets a flog because I don't have him.
Roy got me good. You see the thing on Twitter that Roy...
the planned rest from last year.
He got me good too. I was into that until I wasn't.
Yeah, I did a quick little search. I was like, hold on. So in a moment of hope.
Yeah. Fuck.
But not to be.
Oh, my goodness.
Plenty of time still for between now and the end of the round.
Well, Jesus, let's hope.
All right, let's dive into the strategy for this upcoming round. And I want to start by doing a bit of a bye round check-in because we've only got 2 more rounds until the bye round starts. Let's look at our own teams, and I just want to get your...
That's the only reason we do this.
That's the reason we do this. But do you know what buy round you're most heavy in? Is there a particular buy round that you are looking like it's going to be the toughest for you, that you have the most premiums in, or one that you foresee being the toughest for your squad, or is it a little bit spread across?
Yeah, I was having a look the other day, and I think, to be honest, for the most part, I'm reasonably well spread across. if I had to say that there was one where I was probably most heavy on the premiums at the moment, it's maybe just at a pinch around 15.
Yeah.
But at the moment, like a reasonably even spread. So when I was and I wasn't taking into account, the trades between now and then, but when I was looking across the board, I was looking like, maybe with some rubbish rookies coming on the field, I might be able to field 20 each week, with the exception of round 13, where obviously people might be able to field a few more.
We'll field all 22 basically. Yeah. I think round 15, I've got a few mids on that round. So Dawson, Steele, Bont, but no one in the forward line, and then just Nick Dacos in defence. So that's looking okay for me. For me, it's round 14. Okay. So Sam Walsh, Max Gawn, Flanders, Caldwell, Nick Martin. And potentially, if I look to trade in the Clayton Oliver, there's a few guys there. Plus, we've got a few decent rookies in Harley Reid and Sam Closey there, which more than likely will be traded out by that point. But just if I count up all the players I expect to be there, I'm thinking I'm going to be a bit low on that one. And the Max Score one really does hurt as well, because hopefully by then I've traded or upgraded Jordan Sweet, so I don't know if I'll have anyone to cover him. So I think that one's looking like the hardest one for me. So I wanted to lead that discussion in to maybe talk about what's our plans for the upcoming bye rounds. And I think this is definitely something to start to think about at this point, because it factors in also who we're going to be trading in the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
And I want to talk about this because you and I are both a little bit kissed in this regard. We don't have some of the cheaper options going around at the moment with Connor Rosie and Tom Green. So for my particular plan, I'm very much looking at Tom Green coming in around 13 after his round 12 bye. Connor Rosie coming in around 14 after his round 13 bye.
Yep.
And then targeting some of the maybe more expensive guys in rounds 14 and 15, or 15 and onwards, basically. So do you have like a similar sort of plan of attack? Are you interested in those guys that are getting cheaper? Or
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say no.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like just the obvious play there. Look, the one that I want to talk about in particular, and just to get your idea on the strategy for this, is the three trades that we have leading into
the round 12
bye.
Yeah, that's the toughest one.
And that's why I wanted to give it a little bit of airtime, is because obviously it kind of, round after round 12, after round 13, and after round 14, it's 2 down, 1 up. You get in your upgrade.
It's easy, yeah.
It's easy, your happy days.
But into the guys that have had their bye.
Yep.
And yeah.
Yeah, it all seems to be going honky-dory, but what do you do with those three trades leading into
the round 12 is the most awkward round of the year, I've always said. It was that round last year where I traded out Errol Goulden and did a bit of a sneaky trade, which kind of backfired, but also it kind of worked all right.
Also front fired?
Yeah, a little both firing. So it's around that round that if I've got a bunch of red dots piling up, I'll try and fix up some of those red dots that maybe don't have much cash, and you do a bit of sideways maneuvering to try and get them to, get rookies in that will at least be playing to help you through the next few bye rounds.
And so when you're trading in on that round 12, anyone that you trade in is
still
yet to have a bye.
Yeah,
so are you looking to hopefully target guys that are like round 14, or just target guys that are on a round of weakness? Or?
Yeah. It's not a round where I'd want to be spending big cash on someone, because when you're spending big cash on someone who's about to miss a game, it just feels a little bit wrong. But at the same time, you might be able to get on someone a week earlier or something of that nature. So it'll sort of depend, I guess, when it comes around on what options present itself. But it is probably the round to do some really maybe sidewaysy or creative luxury moves. If you want to get a bit inventive, I think round 12 is the round to do it, because you do have over the next few weeks as well a few extra trades up your sleeve to maybe get yourself out of a tight spot if things do go wrong. So I think it is a round to take a punt.
So when you asked me before, you said, who are you targeting? Tom Green, Connor Rosie. For us, it makes perfect sense. Those guys are going to drop in value. But the fact that you get three trades and you can do the 2 down, 1 up, often it means that you're going to make it to that
those
dollar
top
premium,
guys,
with ease. So is there a case to say that instead of, if a guy like Tom Green hasn't really shown that he's been able to turn it back to those 130s from earlier in the year, is there a case to say that even though he's the cheaper option, maybe you just use that 2 down, 1 up to go straight to the top and grab big dogs?
Yeah,
Josh Dunkley.
Yeah. So we'll talk about. Also, we'll name a few players coming off their bye. So after round 12, you might be targeting players in the Brisbane Lions like Josh Dunkley and Dane Zorko. Errol Goulden might also fit into that target as well. Coming off round 13, you've got players like Caleb Sarong, Zach Butters, maybe who are a bit more expensive. And coming off round 14, you've got Zach Merritt and also a Max Gawn as well. If you didn't start the year with him, it might be finally time to get him in after his round 14 bye. So I think if you've already got those guys in Green and Connor Rosie, then yes, you start to look at these boys coming off their bye rounds because, like you said, you've got that ability to do two downgrades to get the one big up one and still get there without absolutely destroying your team. So, yeah, it is definitely something to consider. Off the back of that, though, like to tie it back into making these next 2 weeks trades, if we kind of foresee, and this is something that I want to get your opinion on and maybe also people comment your thoughts, if we foresee that there's going to be a couple of real cheap trades, Tom Green and Connor Rosie coming in, do we need to be still hunting value like over these next couple of rounds, or if you've got the cash? Because the reason, like, if you can get in a top dog guy, but we save on going the guy who's more value because we want those next upgrades to be coming down the line. If those upgrades are going to be really easy to make when we've got 2 downgrades to make to get to a guy who's barely 800,000, like, should we maybe forego the value mantra for these next couple of weeks and just maybe target some of those top guys? Like, it might seem weird, but going for players like Dane Zorko, Josh Dunkley, who have great 2 games coming up before their bye, getting a Caleb Sarong, who's probably the most expensive guy in that round 13 bye. If you can get there with some of your trade outs, do you pull that trigger and forgo someone who's an obvious value like Clayton Oliver this week, which a lot of people will go. It's something that's I'm trying to wrap my head around this week.
I feel you on that one. The only thing I can see presenting a bit of an issue is how people get there. So, like, for example, this week, I'd much rather trade out a bench rookie and a playing rookie to get my upgrade and my downgrade. Whereas if people are going like, okay, well, I'm getting rid of Harley Reid and I'm getting rid of Matt Roberts. Well, these guys, I know they both dropped relative stinkers on the weekend, but both of these guys have been playing options for us. So, like, if you get rid of them, who's coming on? Is it fucking Lazaro for me? Is it the Ferrari Drew? Like, fuck no.
Yeah.
So I can see that if people start to go away from the value, maybe they start to distort their team a little bit by trading their gun on-field rookies. And I would warn against that. I think you would as well.
I would too, yeah.
The other thing that I think we know about fantasy is it's so unpredictable as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that 50, 80, 90K, whatever it is that
like if injuries hit or something like that, maybe it's a difference.
Look, it could be tough. And I'm finding it still a stretch to get with you trading out a bench rookie. I'm finding it's a stretch to get that field rookie still up to.
It might be a situation for maybe those guys who have a bit of cash in the bank that you might find yourself in. But like, say you've got a Will Graham, like he's 490,000. You've got someone like a Matt Roberts. If you've got 100K sitting in the bank, you can easily get to someone who's close to $1 million. So in that situation, I would actually start to tick off maybe going for those more surefire things in someone like a Josh Dunkley, someone like a Caleb Sarong, who I would normally say, no, they're kind of priced where they're going to be. Like, there's no value. You're kind of paying for what you get. Versus if you foresaw, say you were in a situation that you and I are in, where you've got Tom Green coming down the line, you've got Connor Rosie coming down the line, where they're super cheap. If you already have like a couple of those guys or one of those guys, then maybe again you still hunt the value because you won't have those options. But yeah, it is just an interesting specific situation I think we find ourselves in with a couple of those guys coming off their buys early on.
The way things sit at the moment, I think you're right in saying, but remember, Rosie and Green, that's not a situation that everyone's in where they're going to target those guys. And the other thing too is just forecasting the round 14 buy as well. A lot of the guys as it currently stands that have the round 14 buy are actually guys that you are going to have to pay up for. So Gawn, Merritt, I think is English and Romar both on that?
They're on 15.
15 buy. Okay, so
Nick Martin if you don't have him.
So like
Sam Walsh if you want him.
Do you know what I mean? At that point, you are going to have to pay top dollar. So maybe the fact of like, spend up big now because you're getting these cheap upgrades. Well, come round 14, round 15, maybe it's not so cheap.
Like, I'm forecasting that I'm going to have to get Zorko in at some point after his buy, and I'm thinking he's probably going to be the guy I get in round 15. Hopefully, is sort of my target for him, as Darcy Wilson's sort of like my last on-field rookie to upgrade if all things go to plan. But that's still, he's going to be $1 million by then.
Yeah.
Assuming he doesn't do a hammy or something like that. But those are just my thoughts. Yeah, but it is an interesting one because I think the vanilla option this week, and we'll get to trade targets, seems like Clayton Oliver. Maybe I'm just trying to look for a reason to not go there, but we'll have to wait and see. All right, let's chop some players.
Correct.
Let's go chopping these players. And off the top here, it's time to go with these fat and rookies. Name that pops to the top of the list there is a Matt Roberts, who's playing a bit more of a wing role recently as well, which is gross. So he's got back-to-back, basically sub-50 scores, which is no good. So his break-even is right up there, close to 100. I think it's 99. So he is going backwards in cash, has the round 12 bye as well. So he is definitely the top of the priority to go. And then basically, the worst rookie you can combine with him to get to the premium you want, I would tick it off. So for me, I'm looking at someone like a Harvey Thomas. Will Graham is, he was dropped last week, so he's a red dot. I do tick that off, but I do think the priority should be trading out players going backwards in cash.
Yeah.
Then you can hold a red dot, and as long as you don't have too many, and maybe cross your fingers, hope they come back, especially like a Will Graham. If he does come back, he'll still keep going up.
Yeah, what did he do to get out of favour? I thought he was going all right.
Yeah, well, Dimmer swung the axe and they were doing shit. I've got Nat Fyfe in there, but you could also throw in someone like a Lukosius, some of those really shit forwards. In fact, I'd probably put Lukosius at the top of this chopping block order. He's got to go. Here's where I want to have the Harry Sheasler discussion. Okay. I've got him in the chopping block, but with a question mark. Because I don't know how I feel about this one.
Yeah.
This is the talk at the moment. Can you trade Harry Sheasler? He's put back-to-back sub-90 scores. He's also had a role change with those games there as well. He's just dipped under $1 million with a break-even 167. So he's going down in cash. Is he someone that if you trade down, make enough cash to get Roberts up, that you think that that's a play? Or are you worried that he's going to drop a big score on your head and you're going to regret it?
I don't mind this move.
You don't mind it? Okay.
Well,
talk me through why you don't mind it.
A couple of reasons that come to mind right now that could change throughout the week. Full disclosure, could change throughout the week. But this to me strikes me as that aggressive move where people identify the role change, they go with their convictions, and they say, "Okay, I'm off this." He's still effectively $1 million.
Yeah.
So if he starts playing in this role and drops 80s, you're gonna lose more than 100,000 over the coming weeks. And if you can get off early and that role sticks, as it has been the last couple of weeks, you've made the right move. If you've effectively cashed out top dollar.
Yeah.
The second reason is I'm still, based on what we saw on the weekend, I'm still unsure about these rookies. So I know that who's a Collingwood rookie that went well on the weekend?
Joe, is it Joe Richards?
I know that Richards went well on the weekend,
Richards.
But you made the point when we were watching it is De Goey's not coming back into that side. McCreary's not coming back into that side. Those guys are coming back into that side. So even if it's Richards that gets another game this week, well, does he get another game the following week? If you traded in Sullivan, are you losing Sullivan that next week as well? So to me, there's no rookie that I'm looking at and going that is just scoring and job security personified, and I want on that. So, in my mind is that a rationale to go to Sheasler? The other reason why I considered it as well is because my backline is effectively full, and I've got a guy like Closey who I think can roughly trust on field. If I use DPP to trade Sheasler to a midfielder, and then also trading Roberts, once I've got that 300 odd K in the bank.
Yeah, so you get 2 premium mids for your...
So it's like I said, full disclosure, it's something that could change as things come to pass during the week, but I actually don't think it seems horrible. Do you want to go against it?
Yeah, well, my take on the thing, right? So the reason it's ideal to trade a rookie on your bench and then a rookie on your field up is obviously you're not affecting your team's scoring with the downgrade, right?
Yep.
So even if you trade to a potentially worse player, your scoring on field is no better off, and you're going to get the upgrade on field, and so you're effectively just making that nice simple calculation. A player averaging 70 to a player averaging 110, there's 40 points. Whereas as soon as you start to trade 2 players on your field out, you've got to take into consideration both sides of the trade. You bloody Rob over there. So the player you're trading Harry Sheasler to, you're going to want to absolutely be sure that you're trading him to, regardless of his cash movement.
Yep. An equivalent score.
You want to trade him to someone who's going to score equivalent or better.
So what does Sheasel score in this new role if he stays in it?
He'll
have a big game. It's hard
because he's still a fucking gun, right?
100%. And he'll have a big game.
He's basically the best player at North Melbourne.
Yep.
He played Gold Coast, who's been one of the toughest matchups of midfielders so far this round. He was playing at Darwin, which was 35 degrees. He does still come up against two tough matchups, though. So Essendon and Port Adelaide over the next 2 weeks. And then he has an early bye in round 12. So
what is he... So it's a 2-week game. Like, what does he average over 2 weeks? Because if
I
you
was
trade
just to
now...
project his average,
yep.
I'd put him between 100 and 105. I think he could still do that. As the best or second best player at North Melbourne.
Yep.
I think...
That's what he averages in the next 2 weeks.
I'd say the next 2 weeks he averages 95 to 100 considering two tougher matchups. Give him 95. So
if I can get Clayton, like, let's say, if I can get Clayton Oliver to average that in the next 2 weeks when Sheasel averages that,
West Coast too.
The cash is going to go in different ways.
Yeah.
And then I can reset that strategy at his buy. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not like
he's gone forever.
Suddenly I can just go, okay, let's take stock of that. Let's sort of see what that all looks like. And he's now at his buy. What was the role like? Because every press conference I listen to from Clarko, it's Fisher and McKercher really happy with what they're doing down back. Love. He just seems to always want to mention that McKercher had 30 touches every press conference. So that to me just feels like a guy who's kind of like, yep, that's locked in. We're experimenting with She's Like the Ground. So I'm talking about it like I'm locked into doing it, but I just wanted to push that alternative perspective back at you.
It's definitely something worth considering. And you make a lot of cash. You probably make more cash going Sheasel down to an Oliver than you do going someone like a Harvey Thomas down to one of those basement price rookies.
Don't get me wrong. It's not like I have absolute golden rookies on the bench that I just want to keep. Like my rookies on the bench, some of them are absolute dog shit. Like the Red Ferrari, Drury. What am I? Drury Judy again. But it's like, well, who to? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then for how much?
I do like Joe Richards. I liked what I saw, and there's been more news about Jamie Elliott's going to be missing more time. Jeremy Howe's set for a stint on the sidelines. There was an ankle inversion from Harvey Harrison. You don't see those very often. So there's 3 players injured that were playing in the side. So even if you get 3 players coming in,
how many weeks do we want out of him for that to be a success?
In a perfect world, he gets to his round 15 bye. And there's a realistic scenario where that happens.
He was good, don't get me wrong. Like he played well, and in any other week, and there's every chance that I still do it.
Yeah. So who would be the players you trade Sheasel down to? Like Clayton Oliver's probably the obvious one.
Yeah, Oliver, and then what is that?
What about a defender? Would you go to someone like a Luke Ryan?
I don't want to jump too much into this because I'll have to talk to you about it after the pod, but I think my DPP fucks me from...
Right. Doing too many defenders.
Yeah, I'll get into that later.
What about for the viewers out there? Are there other defenders you wouldn't mind trading Sheasel down to that you would be confident score in line or better with him?
If you wanted to trade Sheasel down to get enough cash to do something serious on the other end, I think it would have to be a guy like a Bailey Dales sort of price range.
How much did he go?
So that kind of banks you. I think it's just shy of 200, is it?
So no, you're making 150k essentially doing that.
Okay,
which is okay.
Maybe you've got some cash in the bank to do something else with that, but
he also plays the Giants this week, which is not the most friendly matchup, and then he's got Sydney in 2 weeks, where you'd expect him to maybe cop the tag.
Yeah. So
from James Jordan. So
maybe he's not the ideal option. Look, I think that.
Luke Ryan was the guy I was considering because he's got St Kilda.
You're not going to make much cash, but what's he? He's
849. So you're making 894. You're making 100,000.
So if you don't have cash in the bank, you're not doing anything meaningful on the other end with.
Yeah.
Let's.
But I feel like if you could, Luke Ryan, I do think will outscore Sheasel these next few rounds at least, and he's got the good buy round. St Kilda matchup, Collingwood matchup, 2 great matchups for defenders.
But I think part of doing the Sheasel move is pocketing enough cash to get to the other end, because if you're just downgrading to Ryan, you're almost effectively doing a downgrade that you're not really happy with and an upgrade that you're not really happy with.
You might effectively be doing
2 downgrades.
Sheasel to Oliver and then another player up to Luke Ryan or something like that.
You just said Oliver's got West Coast. So, I mean... Look, I'm not 100% convinced that I love what Oliver's doing, but he fits that bill for the fallen guy that has proving scoring potential that's just starting to turn it around. So we've probably spent too much time discussing this.
No, I mean, I think it's going to be a big discussion point for the week, and I think you've given myself and a few others time to think about that one. The other one on this chopping block here is Tristan Sherry.
Blasphemy, mate. 1 week and you're done.
Oh, mate, well, it was a bad week. It was a very bad week. I didn't think he had, again, referencing the traders, I agree with what Roy said. Like, I thought his bad weeks were going to be 70s, not 50s.
He was up against the absolute man mountain.
Yeah. But teams have been scoring against Witts this year. Like, he hasn't been like the old Jared Witts, although today this weekend he was.
Moist conditions.
I thought maybe this was my mistake for maybe thinking this, but I thought it was going to be a good thing for Rucks up there. You know, a bit more.
Not when he always tries to take it out of the ruck.
True, yeah. I did go back and watch the film. He probably gave away a bunch of free kicks. Actually, let me have a look at his free kicks. I'm sure he would have given a bunch away.
Yeah, it's tough. It's definitely
five.
It's definitely a floor score.
5 free kicks against. So
yeah,
it sucks, but I do think you hold him. I'm effectively holding him until he's like my final player to upgrade.
Yeah.
For me, I think he bounces back. So not too worried about X. I think he'll be fine, but I'm sure some people might ask the question. Okay. Let's talk about some trade targets, the players that we are talking about getting in. And we've talked about a couple already. Clayton Oliver is my number one trade target. From what I saw on the weekend in one of the games I did watch, he looked absolutely back to his best. And he was very stiff to actually only get 99 in this game. He had several times where, could have taken a mark, dropped it, free kicks given away that were a bit stiff. I think 99 doesn't really reflect how good he looked on the weekend. I think the way he played, that score is probably normally a 110 plus. Now, I don't think he's going to be the Clayton Oliver that scores 110 plus, simply because I don't think his time on ground is getting over 80%. And he was an 85% time on ground guy. So if he stays around that mid to high 70s, I think he's more of that 100 to 105 averaging player. But that's still essentially 20 points unders. And so for someone who still has the potential of being that, 110 plus, even if that falls short and he just goes 100 or 105, that's still excellent value. His price is now going to start to go up. He's got the instant reward against the Eagles. It's hard to poke holes in this one, being the most popular trade-in target of the week. I think it's one where I think the crowd's probably going to get it right. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think so too. And I think the people that went early last week weren't disappointed with what they got. I think it was a risky play, but I think a good play from the situation that people were in. And to get something close to 100, I think you were ticking that one off. Yeah,
so I think he's definitely a good option there. Number 2, I've got my trade-in from last week, Marcus Bontempelli.
He played well too. That just proves that you had the moz on him.
Yep, released my moz, so feel free to go and target him now. Hopefully that didn't just reverse it there. But a tougher matchup this week, obviously, than the week before against the Giants. So hopefully he can back it up there. But I still think his price is exactly the same. So if I liked it last week, I obviously like it this week. Just know that I think the instant reward might not be there as much than against Richmond. And number 3, this is an interesting one. Tom Green.
Yeah.
Now, we just talked about targeting him after the bye rounds.
Yep.
But he's cheap now. Do you go there now, especially with, I think he's got 2 decent matchups coming up as well. Who do they play this week? So they've got the Bulldogs, and then they go to Geelong, which is one of the easiest matchups for midfielders, and into Hawthorn straight after their bye. So his break-even is, I think, 133, which is still high. He's not going to go up in cash, but there's a chance he gets there. We've seen him do that. What are your thoughts on trading in Tom Green at this stage before his round 12 bye, or do you prefer to wait?
I think just in sort of my planning leading up to the buys, I think I'm happy to wait on this one. For the position I'm in. Yeah. I think that happy with how everything's ticking along, and the break even's still 133, which I mean, it's no joke. He's capable of doing that as well, but I just don't think he's going to put up a score where he's just going to start getting away from you between now and 3 rounds time.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I still think that if, again, we're just talking about underpriced players, he is definitely one of the ones right up the top of the list. I am a little bit more concerned about his time on ground. He was low time on ground in the last game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, put up a 98, I think he did.
Yeah.
But it's always not nice to see your players play less than sort of 75% TOG, which is what he did. I think Isaac Heaney is also right for the picking for those that did start the season without him. He's down a little bit from his peak price, down at 927,000. I think I'd be happy to go there now. Carlton's restrictiveness has been lesser as of late, and I think he's just one of those guys that's very hard to tag because he could just march you down in the forward line and just take a mark on your head. So
dead set.
I think he's one of those kind of matchup proof type players, and I think especially if you've got other targets coming off the round 12 bye, like a lot of us do with Tom Green, Zorko, I don't want to go, I'll get all of them after the bye. I think I'd be happy to launch into an Isaac Heaney now, especially if you've gone without him for such a long time. So I think it's finally okay to trade him in. And then Andrew Brayshaw is always just kind of sitting at the bottom of these trade targets. I still think he's a bit of value. Again, I don't know if he's a 110 guy this year, but I think he's that 105, 106, 7, 8 kind of range, which still at his price point, under 900,000 now, still presents value and has that good buy around. So I like him as my number 5. So some other options outside the top 5.
Can I, because your other options are defenders for the most part.
Yep.
Can I ask you about a guy called Rory Laird? So before you tell me about Tom and Grant, because I know that Tom and Grant...
That's going to be my first go-to.
Yeah, so I knew you were going to go there, so it's dismal. But if you have a look at his scoring across the year, he hasn't actually put too much of a foot wrong. He's got 2 sub-100 scores, which are obviously gross, and he doesn't really have the monstrous ceiling. But he goes into Collingwood, West Coast, Hawthorn, Richmond. Those are the next 4 games.
It's a good run.
So he's priced under 900,000. So of the rest of the names there, he's sort of like 30, 40K, a little bit more under some of them. If he was the only guy that you could sort of get to, is there a world where you'd entertain the low Tom and Grant Rory Laird? With that
just doesn't
run?
fill me with confidence.
Are you
I don't know. I'm trying to find Adelaide's, just side note, I'm trying to find Adelaide's thing in the AFL Fantasy app, and they've got all the different names like the Nam and Wally Up, and I don't know what Adelaide's is. Do you know what Adelaide's
no, just guess. But looking at his scores, he's a safe 100 surely against those teams. You're not getting less than 100 going Collingwood, West Coast, Hawthorn, Richmond.
You would hope so, but those low time on ground games, it just takes like a passage of the game where you're not involved, and then all of a sudden you're back on the bench, and it just makes me nervous. The reason I was trying to look up the Adelaide scoring, because I'm trying to find out who was averaging more between Rory Laird and Matt Crouch, and they're both on 109. Matt Crouch is 101.6 and Laird is 101.9. So for 40k less, would you go Matt Crouch? Return serve. Who played more time on ground than Rory Laird and is averaging over 70% again. So the reason I traded him out after his suspension was the 2 previous games we was 67. No,
I think
he's back over 70 now.
I think you return served, and you might have checkmated me. But I think I'm like a lot of us, a bit of a sucker for the name in some senses too. Like, when you go Laird or Crouch and you think about the year that Laird just went bananas.
Well,
but
the sources are that at the Traders live show in Adelaide, Rory Laird said Matt Crouch was the number 1 banana.
Yeah, and he's
since then,
barely even a banana himself, he was saying. So I don't know. Look, I was just putting it out there. They have, I reckon that has to be the best run for midfielders coming up, doesn't it? Surely.
Over the next 4 rounds, it definitely is. Port Adelaide, I think, also have a really good run as well. So, smooth sailing for the Adelaide teams, but... I'm still not confident enough with that TOG for Laird. I think I'd rather go Crouchy, actually. Let's talk about some other options. So a couple of defender options. I mentioned them before, but Luke Ryan and Bailey Dale. I really like Bailey Dale and what he's done. The Sydney tag upcoming in a couple of rounds does scare me. That's round 11, so it's not even going to be best 18 in that round either. So I think if you jumped on him in the last few weeks, amazing. I think he has a very big chance to be 100 averaging defender, but I think not anymore with that tag incoming. Luke Ryan, however, has an awesome run for the next few rounds up into his bye. I think he's a good trade. His value is not necessarily there, but he's unique and can pop a ceiling score. Yeah. So I like him if you're looking for a bit of a point of difference. As we saw on the weekend, won't cop a tag. So that's nice. Where are you sitting with the rucks in English versus Marshall? debate. If you were looking for a ruckman or even just to kind of keep an eye on leading into their buys, who are you picking out of English or Marshall?
Also, just straight up, who would I pick at the moment?
Yeah, because I find that really hard to pick between them.
I think maybe I'm leaning to English, and the only tiebreak for me is just that Marshall, for whatever reason, there's always this cloud of the rest, this cloud of the like.
They've teased it a few times, haven't
so they? Maybe if you're just sitting there going, I can't split these guys, that's the tiebreak. Whereas with English, we just kind of feel like he just fronts up every week. There's never a threat that you know he's going to be displaced in that role.
Yeah, he plays for Bevo. Like, what's going on?
Well, yeah, it's opposite that.
Yeah, so in terms of the averages, like Marshall, despite having those 2 pitcher scores, he's still out-averaging Tim English.
He's had some monster.
He's averaging 112.
Scores.
Like,
that's nuts with those 4
scores. He's had some huge healing scores. I think the instant gratification for this week would be Tim English. He's got the Giants, who are still the leading team to give up points to ruckman. But yeah, that's going to be a tough decision when I have to make that when I'm trading Sherry out. So interesting one. And the last one I'll finish on here, Dane Zorko. How much longer can we go without having him? He's nearly $1 million, $980,000. He's got the Richmond Cones this week. My hope, as someone who's not going to be trading him in this week, is that the ball's just not down there and it just lives in Brisbane's forward 50, or they rest him up like they did last year. Is he someone that, like, when do we have to pull the trigger and say, price be done, we just got to get him in?
Yeah, well, it's the line. It's the line that he's on, because if, let's say he's your, he's your F1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, in those teams that don't have him, let's say, they're like an F1's doing, I'm just stumbling over my words. But the basic thing is he's outscoring whoever the fuck you've got in the forward line by an absolute motter at the moment, and it's killing you. I'm unsure as to what to do, because I just have this dirty feeling that the week I trade him in will be the week he does a string or something.
Yeah, I think if you've still got midfield upgrades to make, I'd be doing those first. But for what it's worth, like in my Bolter team, the last rookies I've got on field are in my forward line, and I'm skipping all the other cheaper guys, and I'm just going straight to the top this week and getting Zorko in.
Okay.
Because he just seems like the only guy there that you can sort of bank on weekend, as long as he's healthy, getting you a ton, and that's the cue that now he's going to go down and injure himself. So I'm trading him in. So those are sort of the players that I would be just at least keeping an eye on. But I do like the players on screen here, and I think Clayton Oliver will be the biggest trade in target for the upgrades of the season, probably in terms of a 1 week trade in, and definitely of this week. What about some players that we are watching over the next couple of rounds?
I'm watching you, Wazowski. Always watching.
I've got my eye on one Richmond Tiger.
Okay.
Shea Bolton.
Yeah.
I've got my eye on him, and I'm watching him this week, and potentially looking at him to be someone that comes into my team next week. And I'm doing this because, again, we highlighted those 2 players in Tom Green and Connor Rosie. They're going to be really cheap. We've also got my 2 final rookies on the midfield are going to be Colby McKercher and Sam Closey, who I'm very happy to leave there for a little while.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I want to finish off my midfield until after those guys come off the bye rounds. So Harley Reid is probably the next under the gun for me to upgrade, and he's got to go to a forward. Now, I don't know if I want to get Dane Zorko in a week before for his bye. So Shea Bolton is the one that I'm looking at here because of Richmond's run. Now, Richmond is a shit team, so maybe the run is less relevant. But after this week, they go into Essendon, Geelong, Adelaide, and Hawthorn. Now, Geelong, Adelaide, and Hawthorn are all greens when it comes to matchups for midfielders. Essendon is the tough one. But, again, for a player who, despite being in a really shit team, still puts up decent scores, has a ceiling. He's been getting CBAs more recently as well compared to what he did at the start of the year. Look, he's had a 40,
a 42
2
weeks
42
ago.
and a 48. Yes, they're in there, but for the most part, it's 80s and tons. What are your thoughts about Shea from, again, just from a Richmond point of view? How much can we trust him and his role moving forward?
I think this one, if you made this trade, you'd have to be willing to at least cop a week where it goes the opposite, and Harley Reid gives you an 80 and he gives you a 40, and you just have to kind of back the weight of numbers over the
course of the season.
Course of it. Yeah, I like your logic in saying that, well, if you're going to leave 2 spaces for Green and Rosie on those trade-ins, that you have to upgrade somewhere else.
Yeah.
But people who weren't in your circumstance and still had those midfield upgrades to do, I would be doing those before I'd be...
We've got to start upgrading these forwards eventually, though.
Eventually. But why do it before you have to as well?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
but I can see in your circumstance why it applies.
It's just the watch list and things like that. Other players that I'm looking at to watch again is Connor Rosie when he does come back, whether or not that's this week or the week after, just to see how he looks. And if he is someone that... Like, I feel like Tom Green's definitely someone who's top 8. Like, Rosie was that going into that one, but...
Yeah.
I don't know. He wasn't necessarily someone that I penciled in. Oh, it wasn't someone I penciled in at the start of the year, whereas Tom Green was.
Yep.
Now, he's definitely done prior to that, those last couple of rounds better than I thought. But I don't know if he's necessarily a lock or someone we have to get in our teams. So I want to watch him as well, especially with that round 13 bye. The rucks, I'm watching the battle between Rowan Marshall and Tim English for me as well, for someone who... I'm probably going to be trading in after the bye rounds, up to round 15
this is post round 15. Yep.
But just sort of keeping an eye on them. Is there anyone else that you want to throw up there, a bit spicy, that you're watching over the next few rounds?
Not anyone that immediately comes to mind.
What about, let's throw some other forward line options in there. Bradley Hill, he's someone that intrigues me. He had that big run of games, but only got the 65 on the weekend. I didn't watch that game, but... only the 3 marks after basically just getting 10, 13, 6, 5, 9 marks in his previous sort of 5 games. I want to watch and see if that's a bit of a role change for him as well. And then Brian Myers is the other one. How much can we bloody trust Brian Myers as a forward option?
Oh, based on his scoring, we can trust him to be very close to a top 6 forward, if not one. I kind of get the impression that once we upgrade the rest of our teams and we start looking to upgrade the forward line, it'll almost be, when we get to the luxury trade season, the forward line will be one that we play with week to week, looking for a matchup, hunting a ceiling score from, potentially it's a big forward against a shit team or something like that. Because when you look, it just makes me depressed to look at the highest averaging forwards at the moment. I don't want Harry Mackay rolling around in my team. What the fuck's going on there?
You put a shit one up last weekend as well. I'll throw one more name your way. Zach Fisher.
Oh,
It's the shittest thing when he gets subbed out or named as a sub, scores a 34, and then after that goes back-to-back 103s. His best game for the season, 2 weeks in a row on your head. Is
North Melbourne promised
someone that we jump back on?
North Melbourne promised to be a very, very fruitful fantasy team this year, and to a certain extent they have been.
Yeah, at times.
But they've also thrown some of the biggest curveballs. You got Sheasel, unbelievable, then Sheasel role change. You got McKercher going unbelievable, injured. Some people get off him, comes back, goes well. You got Fisher going rubbish, gets subbed, everyone gets off, comes back, has the role exclusively. Like you got Powell, who's week to week we're begging Phillips not to be named. Like there's a lot going on there. So trading out Sheasel and in Fisher only to have the role go back or something.
Oh, that would just kill me.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's not even out of the realms of possibility.
Yeah.
That would just kill your season, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it sucks when you have those players that are so dependent on that role.
Yep.
Like you just want a guy that can score whenever, or he's just absolutely not moving. So I guess that is another benefit to trading some of those players out, just to remove that headache, at least if nothing else. So,
but there could be a point where we have to go to Fisher again.
Yeah. Lots to think about. But no, I think I've got a bit more to think about this Harry Sheasel move and a few more trades.
Have I got the cogs turning?
Yeah, you got the cogs turning a little bit and see if I can make the move. It really is about whether or not I keep space for those cheap mids, because if I do that and go another midfielder, it means I'm going to have to upgrade to a defender later. So sacrificing getting a cheap Rosie or a cheap Tom Green, it sort of changes my plans a little bit if I do that Sheasel move. So a few things to consider, but let us know down in the comments, guys, if what your trade plans are for this round and how you went last week. Hopefully you guys are moving in the right direction. It's probably another reason why I can't bloody move up. I keep recommending great trades, mate.
Oh, that must be it, mate.
Must be it. But if you haven't done so already, please give this video a big old thumbs up. Make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel and go ahead and give us a 5-star rating and review to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you listen. And if if you have any questions between now and Friday when we're doing our live show again, head over to askmeonq, spelled QU.com/Ball Boys and get your questions in, and I will be responding to your email personally within 24 hours. Until then, guys, we'll see you next time. Bye.